In this video, the process of selecting, reading data from a database and delivering it to the browser is the topic. The files in the dyn_site folder will be used, with all work being done in the index.php page. When selecting data from a database, you will need access to the database using the database connection, a prepared statement to interact with the database server, and PHP with HTML and CSS to build and deliver the selected data back to the client's browser. In this example, since we will be retrieving all the records that already exist in the registration table, with no inputs, there will be no need for named placeholders or bind value methods in the prepared statement. Let's get started by opening the index.php page. As with the previous video, there are comments already in place to guide the development process. Get the database connection. 2. Get the registered users. This is where you will write the prepared statement to extract the data. 3. The next two lines are reminders of what we will do. Either display the users if we've received data from the database, or show the current paragraph indicating that there are no users to see. Getting the database connection is the same here as in the previous video. Use either a require or require once statement to get the database.php page and bring it into scope. Next, let's write the SQL statement and store it in a variable. In this case, we want all of the registered users. Now we will follow the basic outline demonstrated in the previous video to build the prepared statement. Create the prepared statement using the database connection and the SQL. Since there are no parameters, there is no need for a bind value method. Simply write the execute line to run the query. Next, use the fetch all function to retrieve all records from the database and store them into a variable. Finally, close the connection to the database. A good practice is to write code and then test it. In this case, we want to see if any data was returned. This can be done using the var_dump function and placing the variable in it that should contain the records returned from the database. Put an exit statement on the line after it. Make sure the localhost Apache Web and database servers are running. Then call the index page from the browser. If data was returned, the var_dump function will dump it to the browser window, and we can see all of the information about the returned array. This allows us to see what if we have done has worked so far. If nothing is returned, go back and double check your code and continue to troubleshoot and test until the content appears on the screen. Once the data appears as a result of the var dump, we can proceed. Start by commenting out or deleting the var dump line and the exit immediately following it. Using the comments as our guide, we will now scroll down to the main element. Create several blank lines above and below the existing paragraph. Create an opening PHP code block on the first blank line below the H1 element in the main element. Close the PHP code block on the last blank line below the paragraph element, but before the closing main tag. On the line below the opening of the PHP code block, create an if control structure and test if the variable holding the retrieved content is not empty. Make sure that there are curly braces. After the write, the closing curly brace, create an else control structure with its own curly braces. Be sure that the paragraph element is within the else's curly braces. Wrap the paragraph element inside of double quotes, followed by a semicolon at the end of the line. At the beginning of the line, put an echo statement. Refer to the movie's screen for clarification if needed. Now we will write the code to display the results in the if statement's curly braces. Any number of HTML structures could be used to do this, but for simplicity, I will use an unordered list. Begin by creating a variable and assigning the opening unordered list tag to it. Copy the line and create 2 or 3 empty lines below the line just copied. Paste the copied code and edit the new line. Add a period in front of the equal sign. This combination of period equals is the append operator. Instead of replacing the contents in the variable, it now adds the contents to whatever is already stored in the variable. The second edit is to add a slash in front of the U in the unordered tag to make it a closing tag. Between these opening and closing lines, we will now add a for each loop. For more information on for each loops, consult php.net using the address shown on your screen. Our for each loop will contain the variable holding the values returned from the query and break each individual record apart from the complete record set. Each record will then be wrapped up into an HTML list item and show the information that we desire to display. Finally, each list item will be appended to the same variable that holds the unordered list opening and closing tags. When done, we will display the completed unordered list using an echo statement following the closing of the unordered list, but still inside the if statement's curly braces. Double-check your code. When you are satisfied that things look okay, return to the browser window and reload it. If things worked as planned, you should now see an unordered list of the people stored in the registration table. If there are problems, check your code, make sure the servers are running, and troubleshoot until things are working as shown and described. You may wish to register more names using the registration process. When you return to the index page, all names of those stored in the database should appear. In the next video, the update process will be demonstrated.